Recording in progress.
I think we're ready.
Okay, Kelly, want me to just give a quick little thank you for
Yeah, that
coming?
would be great. Thanks, Russ.
Okay, just as a reminder, I'm Russell Cannon. I'm with a company, Linda Extend. I am one of the co-chairs of the Exhibits Committee for the AOPA National Assembly, along with Linda Wise. Thank you, everyone, for coming today, and of course, your participation at the 2024 AOPA National Assembly. I tried to make my way around to have conversations with quite a few of the other exhibitors at it while we were in Charlotte, and I got a lot of positive feedback. This is an opportunity for everyone to hear what went on and share some information and hopefully maybe some suggestions going forward. One of the things I'd like to just reiterate is that from the perspective of Linda and I, we are fellow exhibitors. We're in a voluntary position here. And
If everybody could just hit mute, please, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. We're in a voluntary position here, and our sole objective is to make this as successful from the vendor exhibitor standpoint as possible, and we view this as an ongoing role. So it doesn't just happen at the assembly or just post-assembly. It's really throughout the entire year that we're kind of working on this. So always feel free to reach out to us with anything you might have as far as suggestions or questions. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly O'Neill from AOPA.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As Russ mentioned, we have a committee that they set aside time each month leading up to this show to help put everything together. I just wanted to thank the rest of the committee. Again, we've got Linda and Russ, who are our work group co-chairs. We've got Brad Mateer. We have got Jeff Danoon. And sorry, guys, there we go. Okay, we've got Jeff Danoon, Susie Klemek, Emily McNeese, and Janine Spence. So thank you to everybody for their time and their commitment to helping, putting this show on. We'll just jump right in. What everybody kind of wants to know are our totals. So the 2024 assembly consisted of approximately 1,960 registrants. Out of that, there were about 731 that were attendee registrations. We have about 100 virtual and 1,067 exhibitors. So those numbers as are just a few weeks ago on the 25th, so that could be adjusted a bit, especially the virtual count as well. Preliminary feedback from you all has been really positive. We were told several times throughout the show that there was a certain energy that kind of everybody was feeling, like a buzz, that they haven't really felt in a long time. So I take that as a positive, a plus sign that everybody was feeling it, in that way as well. Attendees also had great things to say. About 81% rated the show excellent or above average, and about 17% rated it as average. And then in regards to our destination, Charlotte, everyone seemed to love Charlotte. They loved the proximity to the airport. It had that great kind of downtown feel, but not being overly huge, being in a downtown location. There was plenty of restaurants and nightlife, pretty much all within walking distance. So something that we had heard last year that we didn't quite have in Indy, it seemed like, there was plenty of it here in Charlotte. So as you can see, 80% thought Charlotte was an excellent destination, and 85% really liked the convention center. I did get lots of feedback about the convention center and the staff as well, that everybody was very helpful, were always around and able to assist with questions that they had about the area. So we've heard about the attendee feedback. Here's a little bit of your feedback that we received from the survey that we sent out. Some of this is information that we have heard in the past. Some of it is new. Just going to briefly kind of run through these. We will have a Q&A towards the end, or feel free to put a question in the box, the comment box, the chat box, and we can address it at that time. You know, the ending time on that last day is always a crapshoot. You know, we've tried different times. We tried 2 o'clock a few years ago, and it was just, it seemed a little bit too early. Attendees miss not being able to come back into the exhibit hall later in that afternoon. So we have been doing the 4 p.m. time frame the past 2 years. Somebody comment here at noon. I think that would just be a little bit too early. Another comment, the vendor happy hour. I feel most attendees went off site. That actually showed up quite a bit in the survey. I think that is something that the exhibit work group will be taking a look at this year, about possibly doing away with the vendor happy hour, or looking at other options to kind of get everybody together for that Friday evening. Concurrent education, competing with exhibitors, not having water coolers throughout the hall. There were several actual water bottle filling stations, similar to what you find at the airports. They may have just been tough to see. They were located basically at the entrance of both restrooms, and then there was one kind of near the entrance too. So they were there. Just kind of, I guess, a bit hidden. So we'll try to make those stand out a little bit more. This last comment here, I love the idea of having the exhibitors who sponsored the t-shirts hand them out. I'm not sure if it was beneficial, as it could have been only because no one knew we had them. Next time, maybe announce where to get the shirts, which booths, companies, to help drive the traffic there. I love this idea. I do not know why. I've never had this happened before in the years past. We've been doing the t-shirts for quite some time now, but I really liked it. Definitely going to take that next step next year, and we will definitely announce and promote who all will be handing them out. Whatever night we decide to do it, you know, this year was a happy hour, but if we don't, you know, go forward with the happy hour next year, we'll pick another time, but we will promote the folks that will be handing them out for next year. Some of the beneficial parts of the show, people mentioned the network opportunities. The exhibitor focused hours were great. The welcome reception happy hour on the first night was a great way to break the ice. Also appreciated that there are a few bad exhibitor spots with smaller vendors mixed in near the larger vendors. The convention hall was great. All the staff was super helpful. Location was great, would come back again. Engagement with customers and partners. They thought that Charlotte was very affordable. They loved being able to see customers that are, you know, local to Charlotte or within, you know, a few states on the East Coast. They appreciated the unopposed time, and they thought that the traffic in the exhibit hall was good. All right, so we kicked everything off, you know, on that Thursday. That Thursday night, we had the Welcome to Charlotte reception. We had a local band called the Brass Animals Marching Band, which came with some fun mascots. We had Lugnut from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Champ the Cheetah from the NASCAR Hall of Fame, Norm the Niner from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and Hugo from the Charlotte Hornets. If you noticed, the food that we did have available and some of the beverages as well represented the South specifically, and some even from the Charlotte area itself. I hope everyone had a chance to try some of those items. We had cheer wine. There was also Krispy Kreme was started there in Charlotte, if you weren't aware. So hopefully you were able to try the Krispy Kreme bread pudding that was available at a few different receptions during the week. Prior to the welcome reception that morning, we had our workshops. I'm also including some product preview theater stats here as well. So the manufacturers and workshops, they always continue to be top attended sessions at the assembly. All of the time slots were sold out for all of the workshops as well as the product preview theater presentations. The workshops scan in about just over 2,100 folks were scanned in to 48 workshops, so it averages about 44 individuals. The product preview theater had over 2,500 badges scanned. There were 24 presentations, so that averaged right around 104 presentations. The attendee feedback on the workshops and product preview theaters, 48% ranked the workshops excellent or above average. And then the product preview theater, 53% ranked them as excellent or above average as well. Did anybody have any comments on the workshops? If you want, since we're at this section here, about the workshops or the PPTs, any suggestions? I know that this year we were happy to provide complimentary projection, the LCD projectors for each of the workshops, so you did not have to order that. So we hope that you know, provided an easier setup for you. Anything in the chat, Joy, or should we just go ahead and move on?
I think someone made that was a comment about that was great providing the AV equipment, but I think there's one comment about potentially considering not putting the PPTs up against education.
Okay, yeah, there are some of them that do happen during unopposed time. Unfortunately, we can't do them all like that. I believe there's about 3 during each of the unopposed times. So I think that's 3, 6, there's about 8 of them, I believe, each day that do happen during unopposed time. So not when any education is occurring. Those do tend to sell faster than the other ones. Okay. So from last year's surveys, we did get some feedback that we wanted to, you know, address for this year. So we listened and we want to kind of show you what we did to kind of, you know, fix these suggestions that were given. The top one being, you know, about the lunches. So we brought the lunch boxes back. We also had the convenience of the food court, which is located in the convention center. I believe there were like 3 or 4 restaurants in there. So hopefully you had taken advantage of those. At the conclusion of Friday and Saturday's general session, we handed out exhibit hall happening cards to all attendees as they exited. So basically those cards included all the events that happened in the exhibit hall both of those days. So included all the product preview theaters that had the times for the happy hour, as well as it stood out when the exhibit hall raffle, which we'll talk about here in a minute, when those times would be occurring as well. Another suggestion was that, you know, better use of the PA system. I understand there were several responses that it was a little loud, so my apologies. That might have been my voice at times as well. But in order to do that, we did have a dedicated volunteers each day announcing the product preview theater presentations. We announced all the raffles. And we also tried to really announce any of the activities that were taking place in the exhibit hall, especially on the happy hour evenings, the NASCAR simulators and the pit stop challenge as well. And then of course the exhibit raffle we also announced too. One of the suggestions was to do, you know, bring a little bit more excitement, more door prize, that type of thing. We were happy that we were able to get a special guest for the happy hour that evening, Jeffrey Lucas, who works at Hendrick Motorsports. And for those that don't follow NASCAR, Hendrick Motorsports is one of the top NASCAR teams in the industry. So we were very excited to have Jeff join us. He participated in the happy hour that night and was just around to speak with attendees. I didn't know till I saw these pictures, but it looks like he was competing with a few of the attendees as well, and the race car simulators too. So, you know, we were happy to have him join us for that evening. And then again, we had the raffle. Somebody had mentioned, you know, initially about one of the feedbacks of doing like a door prize, just to kind of help entice bringing attendees into the exhibit hall. So the committee kind of talked through that, and what we ended up doing was an exhibit hall attendee raffle, basically. And so during each of the unopposed hours, we raffled off 5 Visa gift cards. These gift cards, those gifts wouldn't have been possible without the help from all of you. So thank you to the exhibitors that did participate. We did receive $4,100. And as you can see, we kind of spread it out and had the raffle times occur during each of the unopposed times and different values. So again, thank you to the folks that did participate in that. You know, it's something we may look at doing again in the future. So any feedback anybody has on that, please let me know. One of the last comments we did receive, you know, last year was about the exhibitor education. A lot of you didn't know it was happening or weren't aware that it was even taking place. So this year we really tried to promote it and get the word out to you guys in several different ways. I did send out an Outlook invite to everybody, inviting you, making note for you to forward to your team, because I do know that all of my contacts don't necessarily attend the show. So hopefully that was forwarded to your folks that were on site in the exhibit hall so they could participate. We also mentioned it on the exhibitor webinar in July, and it was also included in a few newsletters that were sent out, and then a flyer was distributed on site too. We ended up with a good crowd. You know, there were about 69 RSVPs in Outlook. We definitely did not have 69 folks there. We ended up with about 25 attendees or so. We were able to record the session this year. I provided a QR code here, so if you were not able to attend, you can scan the QR code, or I've posted the YouTube link as well. I can also send it out. The topic this year was coding, pricing, and policy, how to work with the system to advance your products. It was presented by Joe McTurnan here on the AOPA staff. There were quite a few in the survey who said that they did not attend. They didn't really give a reason why. Maybe it was timing. It could have been the topic. We can put some things in the chat now, or again, we can open it up at the end of the call for Q&A, but we would love to hear suggestions for 2025 or reasonings why you weren't able to make it. You know, maybe it's something we want to you know, move to more of a pre or post instead of doing something on site. But we do feel the exhibitor education is important, and we would like to continue, you know, having that offering for you all. Okay. A few last things for 2024. If you did purchase a full conference registration, or it was provided in one of your allotments for your registration, you all have full access to the virtual assembly, which is currently taking place now, and it goes to the end of November. So you should have received an email with instructions on how to access the platform. If you didn't, let me know. Again, so anybody that had that full conference type, you have access. So if you need some credits, it is majority of all of the education minus the workshops and the product preview theater. The education is within the virtual assembly platform there. Also, we do have an AOPA Flickr account. So we have uploaded all the photos that were taken during the 2024 assembly. It also houses several assemblies in the past too. There's a lot of great ones. I saw a lot of exhibiting companies' photos in there. A lot of sponsorship opportunities were taken, some photos. So please feel free to visit the Flickr account. to check it out and see, you might be in one of the photos. All right. Well, with 2024 all done, we're moving forward on to 2025. So we will be in, as most of you know, because you have already signed up to exhibit for next year, but we will be in Orlando, Florida, September 3rd through 6th. We're all pretty familiar with the Orlando area. This time we are going to be at the convention center, which is a different change. We are going to be in the West Concourse. And directly across the street from that section of the convention center is the Hyatt Regency Orlando. That will be the host hotel. And it'll just be the one hotel this year. And the day pattern, if you'll notice, is back to our standard Wednesday through Saturday day pattern. And then located not too far from our host hotel in the convention center is the Point and the Icon Park, which both of them house over about 50 shops and restaurants. So plenty of places for you to entertain your customers, while we're in Orlando. As I mentioned, exhibit booth sales are already underway for 2025. If you haven't signed up, there's of course still time, or if you need the link, just send me an email. Next week, we will be opening up sales to the general, our general sales will open next week. So, still at this time, it's dedicated to you all, to the 2024 participants. All right. So we will now, if you have any questions or comments, happy to hear from you. Or Joy, are there any specific comments in the chat box?
Well, while we're waiting for others to come in, someone missed it at the beginning, but could you go back to the attendance slide, just the comparison that the first one you showed?
Yes.
They're just looking for that update.
Yeah.
So we had 1,960 registrants and about 1,794 checked in on site. This was the highest number since 2019 in San Diego. And it's also higher than 2018 as well.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hey, Kelly, one thing I do want to just point out, this is Linda Wise on the exhibitor forum.
Mhm.
I mean, I think we've tried this a number of years and a lot of people register. I certainly had intent to go to it, but as an exhibitor, you just get tied up with people coming to your booth or meetings, and it's just really hard to attend those during the time when the booths are open. So I really believe we have to either take that either before or after the show virtually, or we do it at a time when the booths aren't open, maybe earlier in the morning or something.
Yeah, if I could reiterate and kind of grab the coattails of what Linda just said. Even from talking to a number of exhibitors on the floor before and then following the exhibitor education session that we had, again, over 60 people RSVP'd, so I think they had good intentions of attending, but it's just so difficult. This is kind of good news, but it's so difficult to break away from the exhibit floor if there is customers on it. And even during what would effectively be non-unopposed times, it's too difficult to get out. So I think either we have to go to a time when the exhibits are not open, or as Linda just said, literally off of the assembly week. So I think it's something we really have to take a serious look at going forward.
Thanks, guys. Any other comments in regards to the exhibitor education? Okay. Joy, anything else? Or go ahead, Russ. Yeah.
So I'm looking at the chat and I see someone mentioned that during the happy hour, most food stations ran out of food very early. I am curious, is that for the opening reception night or for the vendor happy hour, which was the second night? And I think it's an important distinction in terms of how we go moving forward.
Looks like she says the second night.
Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't get down to that one yet. Thanks, Joy.
So that happy hour, that second night, you know, it's the exhibitor sponsored happy hour. So basically it's you all, you, the exhibitors, signing up to either provide some sort of food and beverage or, you know, a snack or just something, to kind of create like a bar crawl type of event. So, it's, you know, it's on your own. If you, you know, want to participate, it's the numbers have been dwindling the past few years. So again, I kind of mentioned earlier, it's something we're going to take a look at. So if you didn't see food or beverage or kind of ran out, that's just because we didn't have a huge participation from the vendors to participate during that activity that evening.
Right. So I think this is directly related to this, which is I had a number of people. So maybe the exhibitor sponsored happy hour on the second night has not been as successful as we would like. On the other hand, I had a number of people talk about how successful, and this historically feels true, how great the opening night is and the opening reception, to the point where a number of people asked if we could potentially expand the hours, maybe start an hour earlier for that, because it feels like it gets going and then everyone's like bolting out of there because it's a relatively short window. So maybe that's something for us to consider as the exhibits group, but also if people have any thoughts on that, you know, please share them with the group or with Kelly going forward.
Kelly, there's a question about if we track the daily attendance. So attendees, this individual felt like the third day was pretty dull in terms of foot traffic.
I don't think Ashley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no real way to track. I mean, we have individual daily registrations, but we don't, you know, we don't scan as people enter the exhibit hall, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, we have folks checking and making sure that you're registered to enter the hall, but we don't actually scan attendees as they enter the hall. So there's sadly no way to track those type of numbers.
So we could look at education data just to see how many people scanned into sessions that day and kind of get an idea. One thing to keep in mind was that this was a unique day pattern of Thursday to Sunday. So that could be a factor. Next year, we'll be back to the traditional Wednesday to Saturday. So just something to keep in mind there too. And one thing we'll be looking at as a committee for the National Assembly is the pre-show and post-show workshop to see whether it makes sense to have that on the front end or the back end. This year it was on the front end. I think previously it's been on the back side of the conference. So looking at that as well. So it's something that we're definitely looking at.
So can I just add to that kind of the whole overall concept of hours? And like one of the things we did in the last few years, I forget the exact year we did this, we used to have hours on the final morning. So what this year would have been Sunday morning, and traditional day pattern like next year and the year previous would be Saturday morning. And those used to always be basically like dead zones. So we eliminated them. And I think what ends up happening, no matter what you do in terms of truncating the hours, you start to get like bleed on the back end of it, where like that becomes the slowest time. So no matter what you do, no matter how short you make the time, the end of it is always going to be the slowest time. And I think if we try, and I know there was some talk right at the very beginning from the feedback Kelly got online, that people were like, do we need to really be there till 4? The problem is if you start like saying, okay, we'll leave at 2 or we'll leave at noon, then it ends up being the next 2 hours become the hours we start targeting. So at some point, I think we have to hold firm in terms of making sure we have those last couple hours, that we resign ourselves to the fact that aren't going to be the best, because it keeps like the integrity of the overall exhibit hall period like valuable. Just again, that's some input from someone who's been to a couple of dozen of these.
Yeah. Thanks, Russ, for sharing that. That's exactly right. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap up? You all have my email address, of course, so if any questions or comments, concerns, suggestions, feel free to reach out. We're always
Kelly?
looking, yeah.
We just have one comment about the contact list being provided late, if we want to address that for next year.
Yeah, it really wasn't late. It usually takes about a week, a few days to get out to you guys. There's a lot. It's not quite as easy as you think. We do have to pull the list. It does get kind of deep duped. We have to go through it. We can pull out, you know, the workshop part of it and then the actual attendance side of it. And then on the registration form, if you're wondering as well why we don't provide all the email addresses, you know, we're not legally able to provide the attendees email addresses. So we do ask them during the registration process if they will allow for us to share their email. So, you know, typically it does take about a week or so to get the attendee post-show list. I would recommend if you're looking to do a little bit more of an immediate follow-up, is to go ahead and, you know, maybe get a lead retrieval system. I think that gives you a little bit more immediate return, which can be rented through our registration company, Omni. And that way you'll have a little bit of, like I said, immediate return to reach out to the folks that have stopped by to see you at your booth.
There's one more comment from Brad that I think would be important to address. Brad, if you might have a chance to elaborate on that. I know you said you were busy in the lab.
Yeah, sorry. Can
Yeah,
You're breaking up a little bit. It looks like he wants, if vendors are able to send maybe their 2 to 3 priorities for a successful event. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, like Russ and a couple other people on the call, and I apologize for the background noise. You know, a lot of us have been doing this for a long time, and you know, we have our wrap-ups every year, and we just love the feedback. But really, what I guess we're, you know, being the chairman for next year is I really want to know what is a successful AOPA, you know, look like for all the vendors, you know, whether it's small or large, and how can we as a planning committee hopefully hit one or both of those marks. You know, I can't say that we're gonna do it all, but if you had some specific ideas, specific metrics that you would like to see implemented, feel free to send them to my email address. I know AOPA is pretty busy right now with wrap up and getting ready for next year. But you know, if we don't know, we can't help. And everybody's different. So something that looks good for Russ and his group might be different somebody from Mary. So I would love to know what is a successful 2025 AOPA look like for you guys, and how can the planning committee help? Hope that clears it up.
Thanks, Brad. Okay. Any other last minute questions, comments? Okay. Well, again, thank you all for a great 2024 National Assembly. I look forward to seeing everybody next year in Orlando. Again, you have my email. If you do have any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to reach out at any time. Give me a call. We thank you for taking some time to join us today, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks everyone for attending again. And as Brad said, share information, tell us what you think. That's the best way to continually improve the meeting.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yep.
Thanks
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.